Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's a brand new deck profile for you guys today. This time's on Traptrix. So Traptrix just got a brand new structure deck, and it actually has a lot of cool new support cards that actually give this deck a little extra push to what it really needs, because Traptrix has always been like a fun little rogue strategy, especially for beginners, but it's always struggled to really keep up with the meta. But with the new support cards, I think it finally has that edge that it needs to really compete. So I figured I'd share with you guys what I came up with, and yeah. Oh, and just to let you guys know, this is a budget deck profile, so I'm only using cards available within the structure deck, which, funny enough, just about everything you need for Traptrix is in there anyway, so you'd only really need to change up maybe the side deck, maybe a few cards from the main deck, but that's going to be entirely up to you guys. But yeah, figured I'd just show you what I got, and let's get started. Alright, so the main deck is actually going to be 40 cards. Starting off with the monsters, playing 3 copies of Traptrix Pudica. This is actually one of the new ones that came with the structure deck. When this card is normal summoned, you can add the new Traptrix Garden, which is going to be the field spell of the deck. It also has a special summoning effect where you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls and then banish it, but during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon one of their banished monsters. So that's a little risky, but if you do it at the right time, it can be very disruptive so long as they don't have a follow-up play, but again, it's a little tricky. You're mostly just going to use it for the normal summoning aspect, just so you can get that field spell. Next up, 3 copies of Traptrix Arachnokampa. So this is also one of the new cards. So the first time your set spells or traps would be destroyed, they are not destroyed, and this effect recycles each turn. So that's pretty good, because like Traptrix has always been needing some form of back row protection, because you are going to be running quite a good number of trap cards. But yeah, now this card also has a quick effect. So yeah, if you control a Traptrix monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. You cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn except insect or plant monsters, which is perfectly fine. This whole deck is plant and insect monsters, so yeah, that's hardly much of a restriction at all. Next, 3 copies of Traptrix Marmelia. This is actually one of the original ones. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing about the Traptrix. They all have a clause which they are unaffected by the effects of whole normal trap cards. But again, that's not too relevant. When this card is normal summon, you can add 1 whole normal trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is special summon, you can target one spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. So pretty good. And yeah, definitely a must-have at 3. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix Mantis. Funny enough, this actually came out in Code of the Duelist. So, as a super, and I'm pretty sure I got a bunch of these. But anyway, when this card is normal summon, you can add 1 Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 set spell or trap you control, return that target to the hand. Then you can set a spell or trap from your hand. That's actually not too bad, because like a card like Cosmic Cyclone, which could easily get around Arachnokampa's effect, you can just bounce back the one your opponent targeted, and then set out a new one. So like that way you always like keep your resources. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix Vesiculo. You can only use one of the following effects of Traptrix Vesiculo per turn, and only once that turn. You can send 1 set spell, or you can send 1 set trap you control to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. And if you control no cards in your spell and trap card zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 whole normal trap card in your graveyard, set it back to your field. So not too bad. And finally, 2 copies of Traptrix Dionea. When this card is normal summon, you can target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it, in defense mode, of course. When this card is special summon, you can target 1 whole normal trap in your graveyard, set that target, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn if it is still on the field. So, but overall, like, you shouldn't worry about losing that card, because in general, you're always going to be using your trap cards, so yeah. But I figured I'd just play the best Traptrix monsters that were available, and yeah, that's what I pretty much came up with. And of course, this got a reprint in the structure deck, so why not just run 3 copies of Ash Blossom, because Ash is actually pretty good this format, so yeah, pretty happy to see that. Alright, so that pretty much runs out our monsters. I believe that's only 18 monsters, so the rest is going to be spells and traps. Funny enough, this structure deck did not go with too many spells, so I'm happy to see that, and I'm only running 6 in total. So starting off with 3 copies of the new Traptrix Garden. So this is the new field spell that the deck desperately needed. It gives you an additional normal summon for a Traptrix monster, and also the first time each insect or plant monster would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. So kind of like Draconic Diagram in a sense. You can banish 1 monster you control, special summon 1 Traptrix monster from your hand or your graveyard, and of course you can only use this effect of Traptrix Garden once per turn. So it's weird it doesn't say Traptrix, but I mean, it's still pretty good for the archetype. Next, 3 copies of Trap Tantalizing Tune. So basically, it's kind of like Pantheism for this deck. You can discard a level 4 insect or plant monster or normal trap, draw 2 cards. Of course, this is a hard once per turn, so it's not as broken as Pantheism. And of course, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished level 4 insect or plant monsters or normal traps, place it to the bottom of your deck. So it recycles your resources at least. That way you don't technically run out of cards. But yeah, that's it for spells. Alright, so for the traps, and I got quite a good number of them. Let's start with a new one. 3 copies of Traptrix Structure. So this is basically a trap monster. You can actually activate it on the turn it's set. So it's kind of like that Phantom Knight card, which actually does come in the structure deck too. But you have to discard a normal trap in order to special summon this card. So, but overall, that's not a big problem. It becomes the level 4 Earth monster with 400 attack and 2400 defense. And of course, this is pretty good because of the fact that not only is it a level 4 monster, but it can also be used for link material or your Xyz. So that's pretty nice. But overall, yeah, that's generally what it does. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So it has a lot of good utilities, so that's why I decided to run this at 3. 3 Trap Trick, we all know what this does. Banish normal traps, set another one of the same name, and you can activate it that same turn. The only drawback is that you can only activate 1 trap card for the duration of that turn. Next, 3 Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. I believe this is also a new card for the structure deck. If your opponent has special summoned a monster or monsters this turn, target one of your opponent's target one monster your opponent controls with 2,000 or more attack, destroy it. Then if you have a whole normal trap in your graveyard, you can banish 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard. So not too bad. It's basically, yeah, just spot removal, and it's also a deity crow in 1 card. So yeah, I can appreciate that. 3 Floodgate Trap Hole, which I think is one of the best cards of the deck, simply because like it's a Book of Moon upon a summon, and also your opponent can't flip that monster back up. So pretty good against Cashier if you think about it. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. When a monster that was special summoned activates its effects this turn, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. And finally, 2 copies of Gravedigger's Trap Hole. This is actually pretty good against Nibiru, against the Bestials. Yeah, just like the fact that it banishes an effect that activates from hand, and then you also get to inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So that can actually come up, especially for time. So Gravedigger's Trap Hole, yeah, not too bad. Oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to bump the camera. All right, so that rounds out the main deck. For the extra deck, let's start with the Xyz. Starting off with 3 copies of Traptrix Pinguicula. I'm pretty sure I didn't pronounce that right, but whatever. So, of course, while this card has material, it's unaffected by trap effects and the effects of other monsters with the same type as this card's material. So this is where it's going to get relevant in just a second. You can only use each of the following effects of Traptrix Pinguicula per turn. You can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. If a monster owned by your opponent is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, except during damage step, you can attach 1 of those monsters to this card as material. So this is actually pretty strong, considering that, like, again, going against the Bestials, if they banish one of their monsters from the graveyard, you can take advantage of that card they just banished, add it to this material, and it becomes kind of immune to that monster's effects. So yeah, Traptrix Pinguicula is actually not too bad. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix Refugia, one of the OG Xyz monsters. Basically, all this one does is that while this card has material, Traptrix monsters you control, except itself, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Your opponent cannot target Traptrix monsters you control except itself. Once per turn quick effect, you can attach 1 material, send 1 whole normal trap, and then basically gets to copy that card's effect. So pretty good. 2 copies of Traptrix Alamaris, one of the more recent ones. So yeah, same thing. You can you only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. You can detach 2 materials from this card, special summon a level 4 insect or plant monster from your graveyard. So yeah, Monster Reborn. And then of course, you get to if your opponent's monster leaves the field because of a card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, except during damage step, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 of them, special summon it to your field. So it's a good way to basically take control of one of your opponent's monsters, and so forth. All right, now for the links. Playing 3 copies of Traptrix Structure, definitely one of the more important ones. Requires any one non-link Traptrix monster, so that new trap card definitely helps for this utility. But here's what it reads. If a normal trap card is activated, you can special summon one Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than the cards you already control. If other Traptrix monster effects is activated, you can set one normal whole trap card directly from your deck. So yeah, Traptrix Terra just does a lot for a Link 1 monster, and I definitely love it. 3 copies of Traptrix Cularia. This Link summon cards are unaffected by trap cards or trap effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Traptrix Cularia once per turn. After you activate a whole normal trap card, you can set one instead of sending it to the graveyard. So kind of like Medulce Chateau. During the end phase, you can target one Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode. And finally, we got the new Traptrix Adipus. So all Traptrix monsters you control gain 1,000 attack points while you have a normal trap in your graveyard. Once per turn, you can target one face-up card your opponent, face-up cards your opponent controls, up to the number of insect and plant monsters you control. Negate their effects until the end of this turn. Then you can apply this effect. Banish one normal trap from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy one of those targeted face-up cards. So yeah, it's basically a really good impermanence. So yeah, actually it's more like Dark Ruler No More when you think about it, or even Forbidden Droplet. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right, so that rounds up our extra deck. For the side deck, and this is why I love structure decks, because sometimes they do have enough cards where you can actually build a side deck around it. But for me, I decided to go with the Kaiju package. 3 Godarla, 3 Kumungus. Granted, you know, Lava Golem and Raw Sphere mode are probably a lot better, but, you know, Kaijus are Kaijus, right? Also decided to put in 2 copies of Retaliating Seed, just because I didn't really know what else to put in there. But basically, when your opponent activates a spell that includes the effect of special summon card, you special summon it to your side of the field, and basically becomes a one-sided macro. For this format, I don't think that's too good, considering that Branded does get some advantage from Banished, but overall, that's just the best I can do. 3 Raigeki is a good blowout card, Harpy's Feather Duster, and of course, 3 copies of Evenly Matched, simply because it actually is really good this format, and it was actually reprinted in this structure deck as a super rare, so really happy to see that. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys again next time.